Welcome to a very special all-star edition of Talk Dragon Ball, the Talk Dragon Ball Year in Review special, as me, Jay, and a few of our friends look back at 2015 in the Dragon Ball community and in the Dragon Ball franchise. I am, of course, Big D, also known as Geekdom. But you're on my channel, so you should know that. And joining me, as always, before we go any further, my regular Talk Dragon Ball co-host, Super Jay, and say hello, Jay.
Hello, guys. Great to be here. Can't wait to chat about Dragon Ball Year in Review.
Yes, and we're going to talk about so much stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. QAAMAN, who is about to get introduced momentarily, did a video called Are We in the Dragon Ball Renaissance? And that is certainly the truth, I would say. And we're going to get to it. But before we get to our guests, and one of them is QAAMAN, which I'll introduce him momentarily, I just want to say that many of you are wondering, why is there no song at the beginning of this video? Well, it's an all-star Talk Dragon Ball. We usually don't do songs for those, but I want to know in the comment section, those of you who have been around the channel for, since April or whatever, when we really got started, what is your favorite Talk Dragon Ball song? Your favorite song that I have sung about Jay? Leave a comment down below and let me know which one you like the best. Next time we do Talk Dragon Ball, I'll definitely come back with some more songs. But anyways, let's introduce our guest here for this podcast type show. First, I already mentioned his name earlier, Mr. 150K himself, QAAMAN.
Oh, well, I just want to say, alrighty, guys, it is QAAMAN here today, and I just wanted to thank you, I should say, I'm very shocked that Geekdom is actually calling me by my YouTube name. This is a first. I don't remember the last time you've used my YouTube name, QAAMAN Geekdom. I always hear the opposite name.
Yeah, it's not really the opposite. It's the name of your true self you've only forgotten, which is Quinn.
Okay, I guess you forgot to. Oh, okay, just remind
The only
me
one that people don't know is Tyler, but hopefully tonight they learned.
He's a QAAMAN who has since long forgotten his name.
There you go. And joining me, a guy who's not afraid to say his real name on any video because you hear it, and every time you hear it, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Mike from LaughIngStock Media.
Who, me? Hey guys, it's Mike here from LaughIngStock Media. How's it going?
At least you have a brand, bro. You know what? That puts you ahead of most YouTubers.
Yep, especially you.
Brother, there ain't nothing on YouTube you're ahead of me in.
Fight me in real life. I'm jacked.
All right. So anyways, I couldn't contain my laughter. Anyways, let's talk about the year that was 2015. Now, three of us on the call, me, Jay, and Mike, did not... Well, Mike did, but he wasn't a part of the Dragon Ball community. Jay and I didn't really speak... Like, we didn't know each other in 2014. We were not a part of this community, except for, like, from the outsider's perspective, kind of looking in. Now we're actually content creators. So, therefore, the only person on the call here that was a part of the community before us is QAAMAN. So, I'm going to go to you, brother. Quinn, what would you say the major differences are? Not mostly in the community, like specifically on YouTube, also KANZENSHUU, just our whole community. What would you say the big differences? What were the major differences between 2014 and 2015?
Well, that's a very, very interesting question that has two different answers, Danny, because of the fact
No,
that...
it's Daddy.
Oh, I'm sorry. But... I could give you two completely different answers. Are you talking strictly from 2014, or are you talking about when I started off on YouTube? Because there's
just 2014.
Yeah. From just 2014, the biggest difference to me is just the fact that, I collabed with more people. That's basically the biggest difference. And obviously meeting you guys, has given me other ideas for new topics, other types of videos, and all that type of stuff. I'd say that's the biggest difference that I've seen including just myself and the whole community as a whole. I see more collaborations with everybody.
Yeah. So you've talked about this before on the QAAMAN Talks. Before we get to some of the products that have come out this year and the Dragon Ball Renaissance. You've talked about how you pretty much said, I hate to say this, it's going to sound egotistical, but you pretty much said that I'm a big big a catalyst for changing this community, and I'm very proud to hear that, in the sense of now we have more people out there creating content than ever before. Now, if you ask me, the real is on the rise, because we've tried to eliminate the clickbait. We've made several big strides, and it's still an ongoing struggle, to eliminate this clickbait. But what do you think, like, changed? Like, what happened in 2015, other than the fact that yours truly came in here and took over?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Do I have to play the tape?
Good.
No, listen, I
Mike?
hate saying that, but I had no other way to say it.
Mike, do I need to play the tape ice cold, huh?
No
I can hear Quinn going, oh, bullshit.
And he knows that he's the shit.
No, Quinn has helped out tremendously, so I'm not gonna take that away from him.
Listen, dude, I mean, if I were to, like, just simplify it in simple terms, just strictly from 14 to 15, because there's a big difference between 13 and 14. There's a bigger difference between 13 and 14 and 14 and 15.
Really?
Oh yeah, enormous, especially for me. I mean, look at where I was, on YouTube. Like,
Look where
I had,
I
like,
was. Listen,
3 or 4,000 subs. I didn't collab with BLACKENFIST that much. Like, there's a huge difference. Like, in 2013, like, who was the Dragon Ball YouTubers back then? Like, I was starting out. BLACKENFIST, uploaded seldomly. So, I mean, there really was nobody there. I mean,
what's the
now
difference? Wait a minute. You say he uploads seldomly? Not much has changed, Quinn.
but I'm not picking on BLACKENFIST. But what I'm saying is, like, I think the biggest difference you and the others made this year would probably have to be the perspective you brought to the community, because in ways, I mean, it's basically me, Rhyme Style, BLACKENFIST, and not just you guys. Now Expert Games is doing his twist on things, and he's one of the bigger, voices in the community now. And I think that adding everybody, especially you, who, I'll be very honest, you're extremely outspoken about your opinions on various matters, even more so than I am. I'll be honest, I am very private in a lot of things that I say
my
on
balls
YouTube.
are bigger than yours? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that you're very outspoken, sometimes to the positive or the benefit of others, and sometimes to the detriment of others. But the point I'm trying to say is, I think that you added a very interesting twist on how you view things.
Yeah, well, I think everybody here has, including Jay, including Mike. I'm actually very proud of the fact that this year in the community, because of some of the stuff we're going to talk about here momentarily, people have opened up their eyes. People are reading the manga more now. People are watching the anime in Japanese now. People are looking at quality of videos versus quantity. I'm not going to name any names right now, okay? But I am going to say that if you pay attention to numbers, you can see that certain YouTubers have been getting much better views than others. People who were established bigger earlier in the year have kind of shrunk, and vice versa. And I do see a shift, which I predicted, by the way, in May, that I do see a shift in the paradigm now. So now it really is all about quality and all about being real. I do think
Paradigm, man.
I hope this time it was intentional.
it was intentional. Yes, I know it's paradigm. It's
a
paradigm.
callback to that one episode we did where we were saying that it sounded like an Australian term.
Yes, and I also it's a joke. It's paradigm. All right, I know paradigm is I want to dig them, Jay. Right? No, but
yeah.
Jay digs them. But let's talk about, like, Dragon Ball 2015. Let's talk about what we got this year. We got 2 video games. Really 2.5 if you count more than that if you count the fan-made games. We got Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and I feel that Dragon Ball Xenoverse has contributed tremendously to the growth of the Dragon Ball community, not just the YouTubers, because I'm pretty sure that Dino and, like, Toasty, I was gonna say his real name. Tyler. You beat me to it. Quinn loves it when I use real name. No, I'm pretty sure that Toasty and a lot of these guys have attributed Dragon Ball Xenoverse as being a big source of their growth. Thundershot as well. Quinn, would you agree with that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'd even say myself, even though I'm a secondary gaming channel, I'd say I benefited from Xenoverse, and the reason is the best month I've ever had in my entire YouTube history is where I gained like I think it was like 13,000 subs in a month, and that was like the month like literally around the time that Xenoverse happened. And it's no coincidence that me, Rhymestyle, BLACKENFIST, Thundershaw all had our best month on YouTube at around the same time. I think it's no coincidence.
Well, there was something else that came out around that time, which I'm going to get to shortly.
Yes.
That's what
But
I
I do think it's heavily predicated towards that, because think about it. A lot of Dino's popularity spiked because of Xenoverse, and because I collabed with Dino, and because I did some Xenoverse stuff myself,
Who?
that also helped spike it. So I think it's all a lot of that centered around
Wait,
Xenoverse.
who collabed with Dino?
Me.
All right. Jay, why do you think that Xenoverse...
Yes?
Jay, why do you think Xenoverse had such a positive impact on the community? Was it because it's a great game, or was it because it's a great game following a not-so-great game, a.k.a. Battle of Z?
Battle of Z.
What do you think?
I think there was a lot of hype around Xenoverse due to the fact that it was an original story. They simply weren't retelling the same story they'd retold a dozen plus times in video games. It was a completely original story with characters that were introduced in the Dragon Ball Online video game. We knew it was going to have RPG elements to it, character customization, all these things created a lot of hype. And when the game came out, it was a solid game. It was about I'd have to give it at worst a 6 out of 10. So I thought it was personally a 7 out of 10 for as a Dragon Ball game. It was a 7 out of 10. Overall, as a game, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. But the fact of the matter is, the Dragon Ball community really rallied around that game. For content creators, whether you're a gaming channel or not, there was a lot of content there to talk about prior to the game being released. What characters were going to be in the game, what characters weren't going to be in the game, the DLC that was coming out for the game. So there was a lot to talk about in that game. And then obviously there are people that have ZZ Toasty and Dino and Quinn as well. Like Quinn does gaming on his channel occasionally. It creates free content for you, and even Josh, Dragon Ball Nation, it's free content. You can just play the game on Twitch, or now on YouTube you can live stream, and it's just people will go there and watch you play the game. If they can't afford the game, or if they want to know if the game's good before they go out and buy it, they might watch someone else play it. So it really does create a lot of views and a lot of traffic for channels when there's games like Dragon Ball Xenoverse coming out, especially because of the hype that was built up around that game prior to its release.
Well, yeah. Just to support you, Super J, and one of the reasons why Mortal Kombat Armageddon is my personal favorite Mortal Kombat game, I think it has to do with the whole custom character thing. I think that when you, like, for example, if you play a game where, like, you basically pick, like, the generic Dragon Ball cast over and over again, it's like, it's just the same thing, just different fighting styles. But if you think about it, the fact that you could customize your characters, I think that really added towards the whole popularity of the game. And I think that it really, like, expanded, like, the whole universe. Like, you could play as a Saiyan, a Namek, a human, all that stuff. And although I do think the custom character system, Super Jayain has seen me play many times, he will tell you that I have a little bit of a problem with the way the custom character system works. I think that definitely would probably be the number one reason.
So QAAMAN can't hack being beaten by custom characters.
Well, so you're saying that it's a combination of the fact that Xenoverse did things that no other Dragon Ball game did, because prior to Xenoverse, almost every game, and Battle of Z was different, but I feel like almost every Dragon Ball fighting game was essentially like you said, Jay, Radix Taboo, and we had a few exceptions, a few twists there, but Xenoverse created this story where you're playing Radix Taboo with a twist, plus you had, of course, the Battle of God story, you had characters that they brought in from Dragon Ball Online. I mean, it really was a grand success, without question. Now, Mike, from LaughingStock Media,
Clayton.
Right? Clayton. Last summer, we got a trailer for Dragon Ball Z 2015, and I know, eventually would become Resurrection F, and I know for a fact that that was a huge boost in the community, because we both, all of us can kind of conclude that Frieza as a villain was a very smart move. It's a nostalgic villain from when the series was at the peak of its popularity. So bringing Frieza back is a very, very smart move. Do you feel that the community on YouTube and the whole community, do you think that the explosion has to do more with Xenoverse than with Resurrection F? Because right when Xenoverse came out is right when we got that third Resurrection F trailer, where the first time you see Golden Frieza, the first time you see Goku kind of fighting, you see him knocked out, and you see like you hear the music. That was right around the same time Xenoverse came out. Do you
Yeah.
think that it really was Xenoverse, or was it Xenoverse and the Resurrection F hype? Because the hype train was at its max right around that time.
I think it's definitely a combination of factors. I think that Resurrection F started the spark. Because the thing about it, we could say that Battle of Gods started the spark, but with Battle of Gods, we saw smoke. We didn't see the fire yet. Because, for example, Battle of Gods could have been a one-off thing. We
thought it was a one-off thing.
We could have just gotten one movie, never another movie. It was just a fun last hurrah. No one knew. But with Resurrection F, with the new Dragon Ball movie coming out after Battle of Gods, we immediately realized that this is going to keep continuing and keep going on. And then so new hype for this movie, and then for a new series, and then for new games in the future. The whole Dragon Ball brand really took off with the announcement of this next coming Dragon Ball movie, in my opinion. And when the movie actually came out, when we were actually doing the trailers and stuff when they were coming out, I actually did a very in-depth analysis and talked about this at length. So I definitely feel like the movie is really the catalyst for everything, and that Xenoverse kind of helped to make it bigger. But I think that the movie overall was the biggest thing that really ignited stuff, because I mean, there's been Dragon Ball games for years, even though this one was great. There was a lot of hype around it. The fact of the matter is that it's been going on ever since Dragon Ball has even been dead as a series for the most part, because it was dead before Battle of Gods. So really, Resurrection F is what made everything possible. So as much as the negatives I would say about that movie, and there certainly are flaws to it, I think the fact that it kind of reignited the series as a whole and reignited the whole franchise is really, something positive for it in the future and for pretty much everything that happened.
I just remember going back to those days in like March and even before that when we were all kind of speculating. And I remember in December when the Resurrection F poster dropped and you saw Frieza on the cover with that like orange god key, and we're like, oh shit, he's a god. Then you see Beerus and Whis there, and we were all kind of like trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Very excited because we knew that, Beerus in Battle of Gods was kind of like this, kind of a melancholy character that eventually wound up, people loved him. But Frieza, we knew was not going to be anything close. We knew Frieza was going to be a dick because he's Frieza.
Yeah.
So I just remember that speculation up until when the movie leaked in Japan, and that's when I started to do my videos right around then. And then Jay would hit me up. Jay hit me up shortly after, I want to say about 2 or 3 weeks after, and became my first YouTube partner. Pretty soon he'll be my life partner once they legalize it in Australia. But seriously, and then the Resurrection F spoilers came out, and then the hype kind of started to build for a couple months there, and then we got the Dragon Ball Super announcement about a week after the movie premiere in Japan. So here's my question. Quinn, we'll start with Quinn. What are your memories of the two-part question? What are your memories of the revival of Resurrection F hype? Your fond memories, and what do you think was a bigger story? Resurrection F, Dragon Ball Z movie 2015, or the debut of Dragon Ball Super? A new series.
That's kind of the thing is, Danny, I'm going to give it an edge to Super, but I do think, I do agree with Mike in the sense that I think that Resurrection F sparked a lot of the hype. I would say this. Resurrection F sparked a lot of the hype, but Super put the icing on the cake. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if
icing,
you look
like in Antarctica?
The reason why I say
cold, no mistakes like me. Go ahead.
The reason I'm saying it, I would say that, Resurrection F, definitely in many ways. The reason I'm saying that Resurrection F had, a lot of the buildup of the hype is for many of the reasons that Mike was saying, because if you think about it, it was like, oh, wow, like they're going to continue this whole thing. Because, I could say this because I made like Dragon Ball videos before any of even Battle of Gods came out.
Yes.
I was basing all of my topics on completely original Dragon Ball stuff, and all the stuff I talked about was old stuff. So people who would be interested were fans of the old stuff. And then once Battle of Gods and all this new stuff came in, it really hyped the interest in the whole community. Dragon Ball was basically, I wouldn't say dead, but it was dormant. And I think that when Super came out, it literally like sparked everybody because it's like, what the fuck? Like a whole new fucking series after like 30, like the series started like 30 plus years ago and they're making a new one. Like that was like, wow. And everybody's like, wow, there's gonna be a new Dragon Ball series, and everybody was ape shit.
Did you think we'd ever see that, bro?
Honestly,
I didn't.
No, because I just felt that I know this sounds like a very simple reason, Danny, but the reason why I felt that Dragon Ball Super was not possible is because I felt if they were gonna make a new series, they would have already have done it years ago. Because it's like GT
They
was already
tried,
done.
man, but
Yeah, but it's like okay. If you think about it,
Clayton.
and a lot of younger, newer Dragon Ball fans, Danny, I'm sure they could relate. They might not relate to this, but years ago, like 2008, I don't think people realize how hyped people were for Yosun Goku. Like when I heard about Yosun Goku, I was really hyped because there was like nothing.
And the old voice cast is coming back, the old music. It was a big nostalgia trip. It really was. That movie or that special was a total nostalgia trip, man. Then Battle of Gods kind of was a bigger scale version of that. But I'll never forget when I first saw Yosun Goku stream from Japan legally. They actually did a simulcast. Toei actually did it right that time.
Yeah.
So, Jay, big story of the year, other than Xenoverse, was Resurrection F the movie and Super. Which do you think was a bigger story? And do you think that the Resurrection F release kind of coincided with Super even being announced? Like, I feel like one kind of led to the other.
I feel like Resurrection of F overall was the most hyped thing of 2015. And the story surrounding those characters, Goku, Vegeta, the biggest thing, even if you were not a Vegeta fan or you're not a Vegeta fan, the biggest thing surrounding that movie for me was who was going to kill Frieza? How was Frieza going to be defeated at all? Was Vegeta going to be a god? There were so many questions about Resurrection of F that made it such a hyped up thing. And the fact that it was coming to cinemas in 3D and 2D, Japanese, English, it was really hyped up down here in Australia. Like everyone was really, really pumped for it. Waiting for it was the worst part, obviously. But the trailers, the first 3 trailers that came out were getting people hyped. I remember when the first trailer came out towards the end of 2014, everyone was going, oh, is Evil Goku going to be in it? And then those rumors kind of resurfaced recently. Yeah, just because he had like a smirk on his face when he was doing the instant transmission or instantaneous movement, he had like an evil smirk on his face. Everyone's like, oh, Evil Goku's going to be in the movie. And I don't know where the hell, I think that's where that started initially. But, I mean, Xenoverse was very, very like something I was looking forward to, and it was very hyped, but not to the degree of Resurrection of F. And the reason being is Resurrection of F was a direct sequel to Battle of Gods. It was, the story that was continuing. It's what everyone wanted, was another Dragon Ball movie after Battle of Gods. So I feel like that was much more hyped up. And you just have to look at these sales figures after Resurrection of F in cinemas. It was the biggest selling or grossing Dragon Ball movie in cinemas of all time. I think it was like the 10th all-time highest grossing anime film in cinemas. So it was a very, very well-received movie in cinemas. And I feel like for me, that was the highlight of 2015, being a part, when I take myself away from YouTube.
Seeing it in the movie theater, you mean?
Yeah. Taking myself and removing myself from the YouTube community and just being a fan of the series. Sitting in a packed cinema with 250 other Dragon Ball fans and seeing people dressed up as Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, people doing Kamehamehas. It was just a great night to be a part of the community. And, the hour and a half the movie went for was probably an hour and a half of the best, time I've had with the Dragon Ball community. It was just a fun ride. And Dragon Ball Super got announced not long after that, obviously. So it was a very, I think was it prior to Resurrection of F hitting cinemas in Western countries that Super had been announced? I believe it was actually, yes. So
yeah, it was announced like 2 weeks after the Japanese premiere.
Yeah. So it was a really, really good start to the year if you are a Dragon Ball fan. And I won't go into too much detail with my YouTube journey because I've done that on my channel. But I met everyone on YouTube, and that was a great journey meeting you and everyone else that I've collaborated with. And 2015. As a YouTube collaborator, it's been great, but as a Dragon Ball fan, because of Resurrection of F for me, it's been definitely a great year because of that reason. Resurrection of F for me in cinemas was my highlight of 2015.
Yes, and I was gonna bring that up too. That it's just crazy because we were watching some of these guys like Quinn and Dino. Like, I have heard their voices before, and then we actually got to meet and work with them, you know, on different and get to know the people, not the content creators, the people. And it's been a wonderful experience actually getting to know them as human beings, because really, you know, anybody can, well, not anybody, but, you know, there's tons of content creators on YouTube, but they're all human beings, and people have this weird thing that people on YouTube are like millionaires, and no, there's only a few. Like, literally, there's literally only a few. Like, guys who make over like 6 figures, there's not that many, right? And that's not even a millionaire. That's like a successful. That's not even a millionaire. So when you get to know the people, you get to know kind of how they are, what their ticks are, and it's been a great experience. Mike, bigger story, Resurrection F or Super, the series? And a follow-up question is, did you ever think we'd get another series? Ever?
I always feel like when it comes to established series, that basically, like, if the creator's still alive, there's always hope. Because a lot of the time what will happen is that these kind of artists will always get that itch to return. Like, every single time, like, a lot of times when a very popular artist or, like, writer or something along those lines actually like retires, and then he'll come back like for something. So once I saw Yosun Goku and his friends return, I kind of did think that, like, basically there is a possibility for it to come back. Why else would they do that? Why else would they do the Battle Gods movie? And Resurrection F basically just sealed the deal in my eyes. I thought that the franchise was most likely going to continue as movies, but I saw Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, it really had its bread and butter when it came to basically, you know, when it came to series format, you know, the episodic format. So I thought that unless they were going to make 3-hour movies, which I would be fine with, you know, knowing me.
They really want 5-hour movies.
Yeah, they really need to return to the series format. So I thought, like, a calculation was probably inevitable for it to happen, and there was rumors forever, so it only made sense.
I mean, it's funny because I got to be honest, and we know we'll do a super analysis in a different video, but I feel like the stories of Battle of Gods and Resurrection F probably could be told better in a 2-hour movie. And the movies weren't 2 hours, but I feel like I think a series for those two stories, just the stories in general, is a little too long. But I think if they put it in a movie, make it a little longer, I think it would be better. But however, with this Champa stuff, that I feel like it's way too much for one movie. I feel like all these new characters, and I think that's way too much for a movie.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, when it comes to the stuff that they're doing right now in Super with the movies, the thing is that Super is stretching out movies. So it's basically like, it's not the story that they initially wrote for those movies is just not going to be enough for arcs. Because in Dragon Ball, like, how long are the arcs usually? They're nowhere near as short as what we're being presented right now, even in the series, even as padded out as it feels. You know, we still basically are, you know, experience a format, you know, that isn't really suitable for those short, slow, contained stories unless they're willing to just completely change everything. So I feel like, yeah, unless they're going to make the movies have cliffhangers, unless they're going to have like a trilogy for each arc, then I didn't see it being possible for them to ever really continue in the way that they're going to do it. Because we know it's Toei, it's fucking Toei, it's Japan, greedy sons of bitches. They need to, they're not going to let things go longer than an hour and a half because they want to ram as many people in those seats as possible, even though a great movie, it doesn't matter. People are going to see it no matter how long it is, and they'll see it multiple times. Like Dragon Ball fans, like such a hardcore base. So, yeah, I didn't think that they would do that. I figured that the series is better suited as a series, even though the presentation won't be as good because they're not going to dump as much money into it because the company is the way it is.
Yeah,
I think that's better suited as a series because as a series we get more development. The fights are better because they have more time. Everything just has more time to become better. And unless they're going to give us 2.5 to 3 hour films for each like segment, then it's not going to happen. So I think that the series is definitely beneficial. But what we're seeing right now, thus far in 2015, I feel like it's mostly constrained because of the story element from the movie. And once they actually expand beyond that, we're going to be good.
Yeah, and once they expand beyond, like I said, I don't think that it could be possibly even made into a movie. Like, it would have to be one of them two-part gimmicks like Hunger Games and Harry Potter and shit.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it should be. Like, I feel like if they're going to do a real saga, like, imagine if they tried to make the Cell Saga or the Boo Saga into one movie. Impossible. It would ruin it because it would be so crunched together, so compressed that it wouldn't be as good anymore. So you got to do,
and that's my argument for why never do a live-action Dragon Ball movie.
I mean,
it just can't be done, not in that way.
I don't like if you're going to do one movie per arc. No, impossible. You can't do it like that. You have to do multiple films per arc and tie them in because
or create something totally new.
Yeah, either that or a series.
But Mike, I think to like look at this from like a reverse, an opposite standpoint, even though I agree with everything you're saying, is like when you look at Dragon Ball Super, it's kind of like, let's take the Cooler movie where Goku fought Cooler, and let's take the Return of Cooler, and like basically stretch those movies out into something that takes 15.
Well, that's what I was just saying.
That's a great
exactly.
Point.
No, I know that's what you were saying, and I'm just saying it's like, let's illustrate it like that, guys. Let's take those movies, or like the Broly movie, and stretch those out into 15, 20-minute episodes. I mean, that's kind of what Super is becoming. It's like, well, if you tell the story well enough, I could tolerate it, but it's kind of like you're in a limited stratosphere because there's only so much original content you could put in when you're basing it off of a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, when it comes to a movie, they try to write it and give enough story in a way in which it's conveyed within that time frame. So it's already been created from the initial like inception of this idea of this storyline of all the characters, stuff like that they introduce in the movie for the movie format. So when you actually try and put that into a series, instantaneously it's going to be fundamentally flawed from the get-go unless they completely change everything, because the fact that this stuff was already designed simply for the film, like the 90 minutes, the 50 minutes, like the older films used to be. And you know, in my opinion, the older films are not very good except for like the first 4 when it comes to Dragon Ball Z. Like, and even like, you know, those are good because they're so different and they actually fit within that time frame. But everything else after that, it's just like the writing is just boring because it's so compressed, and I don't care about any of the new characters they introduce. And I think that's a problem with Super, and that's why they really need to, you know, change things. And they, you know, and I think that they're going to when they actually expand into an arc.
Well, that brings me to my next question. Then I'm going to ask. I'm going to start with Jay this time, and then go to Mike, and then Quinn. Jay, so it's been on now for 7 months. Sweetie, it's been on 6-7 months now. Right now, we're recording this at the end of the year. Champa arc has not started. Resurrection F arc is about to wrap up. Are you satisfied with Super? And that's part 1. Part 2, were you satisfied with Resurrection F as a movie? The movie, forget anything else, just the movie. How do you feel about both those products?
Initially, I took Dragon Ball Z Resurrection of F for what it was, and that was a movie that had a couple of small problems with Goten and Trunks not being in the movie at all, not explaining how Vegeta got his God power up. There were a couple of minor things there that irked me, but it didn't take away from the enjoyment of the movie overall. I still thought it was a solid action movie, and I enjoyed it. I always said from day one that Battle of Gods probably has better story and better writing, but Resurrection of F is just an all-around better action movie. And when Super came out, I definitely expected them to elaborate on the plot of both Resurrection of F and Battle of Gods. I expected both of those to be fleshed out in an episodic format. But when it actually came down to it, the series had too much padding in the wrong parts of the series and didn't give enough character time to the other characters in the series, which is a little bit hypocritical of me to say because I do prefer GT as a series at the moment, and GT really only gives character development to Goku and Vegeta as well. But I feel like that's part of Super being a new series, is that it can correct those mistakes, and Super hasn't corrected the mistakes that Battle of Gods introduced. It hasn't corrected the mistakes that Resurrection of F introduced. So for those reasons, I prefer watching the two movies, and I enjoyed Resurrection of F because I hadn't seen that concept before. I hadn't seen that fight before. And when it gets rehashed in Battle of Gods, in the Battle of Gods arc and the Resurrection of F arc in Dragon Ball Super, it's just simply not as enjoyable. A, because they don't have as big of a budget. B, because it's rushed. The animation looks sloppy at times. The fighting just doesn't have the same polish to it. The fighting is very boring for a lot of Dragon Ball Super so far. So I don't enjoy Super as much as I enjoyed the two movies. And even now, I would rather go back and just watch two 90-minute movies and watch the entire series and then go and watch the Universe 6 arc when it airs. And I'm hoping the Universe 6 arc will be better. And I'm sure it will be because Toriyama's got, new concepts being introduced. But I just hope they fix up the other things like the fighting. The fighting has been very lackluster. And in Universe 6 arc, where it's going to be based around fighting, I'm hoping that they fix that up because it's going to be largely based around fighting being a tournament. So to answer your question, the highlight of the Dragon Ball year for me of 2015 was meeting all of yourself and all of the other YouTube people that I've collaborated with and going to see Resurrection of F in cinemas. Dragon Ball Super can't hit a high of going to see a Dragon Ball movie in cinemas with 250 other Dragon Ball fans. Dragon Ball Super can't touch that. It cannot touch that feeling for me.
I'm going to actually bring that up to our last question there. Well, not our last, but one of our last. Quinn, so, Quinn, Dragon Ball Super, has it been so far a disappointment to you? And the same thing with Resurrection F. Go.
Interesting question. I'll start with Resurrection F. I thought Resurrection F was a solid movie. I thought it was good.
I thought it was fun, but I think it was a lot of things were left on the table, bro. It could have been so much better.
There were a few things that, the thing is, some things were not explained, and I had a major problem with Goten and Trunks not showing up because it's like Super was suggesting, it's very, very anti or against their personality to just sit around and just wait while this big, massive villain is coming to their planet. But, the thing is, other than those things, I had no problem with Resurrection F. I thought it was good. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, obviously being in the station, but I definitely liked that movie. Now, when it comes to Super, I have very mixed opinions on this, and just to sum it up, I don't feel like Dragon Ball Super is living up to its hype, and I was talking to Rhyme Style about this before, and I was trying to say...
I kind of agree with you, dude.
I shouldn't have to wait 25 fucking episodes for something to start getting good. I'm sorry, nobody can convince me that I'm watching a show for months and the animation looks like shit. Oh yeah, let's wait for it to get a worldwide release. No! It's 25 fucking episodes. Give me something good already. I mean, 25 episodes is a lot.
I mean, I still have fun watching it, but I see your point that there's what you're talking about is it's more so, it's not that you hate watching it, it's that you're expecting so much more, and the hype was so high back in May, and now it's kind of been like, well, it's just the thing now.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well,
but we should all be thankful that there is a new series, though, at least.
Yes. And one thing that I just wanted to talk about, I'm not a hater, guys. I do, for the most part, enjoy certain things about Super. I'm not saying it's a bad series. There are some episodes that are a little bit underwhelming, but it kind of gets boring I'll be honest, it gets boring at some points. And, obviously we all do, episode reviews for it. And I'll be honest, sometimes they're not as interesting to review as some others. But what I would say, though, about Super is the fact that this next arc seems like it has a lot of potential, but how much potential does it have, and how long will Super last? Now, the only thing that I have against Super, really, Mike, is what Mike was mentioning earlier with the padding. The padding is the biggest problem to me, because I just feel like there are some episodes where you literally can see the editors sitting around saying, let's stretch this entire thing out for 20 minutes. And that pisses me off. Like, for example, I've actually...
Dragon Ball Z had that problem too, though.
Right, it did. And I was just about to get to that, Danny.
No.
If you look at the original Dragon Ball series, and yes, I know it's all one series, but just looking at the original Dragon Ball, and I recently saw the whole series in Japanese, and I'm actually rewatching it in English now just to see the differences. The padding, there was almost no padding. Like, whatever was filler was basically adding towards the series, especially in the earlier arcs, especially in the Red Ribbon arc. And I'm looking at that and I'm comparing it to Super. There's very little rich, filler. Like, for example, the Hercule episode was good, or where, Vegeta's going to go train with Whis. But other than that, the filler that Dragon Ball Super puts in is... okay, well, Goku fought Frieza in his base form in Resurrection F for 2 minutes. Let's make him fight him in his base form for a whole fucking episode. Or Goku fought Beerus for 2 minutes on King Kai's planet, in the movie. Let's stretch that into a shittier, poorly animated version in an episode. It's like,
I agree with you on that.
That's totally what pisses me off. It's like, you don't have to stretch that out. Add new stuff instead of just making a bad-looking fight scene drag out. Because if you make it drag out, not only is it not visually appealing to look at if the animation's not going to be as good, but it's clearly lazy, you know? And Jay and I are, very, very, very similar in our opinions on episode 4 when it was like the Pilaf gang. Like, that was the most wasted episode.
Completely pointless, especially if they didn't do shit with them. If they would have done something with them, it would have been okay. But they didn't do shit with them.
Yeah.
And you know what? And I don't want to sound like I'm just bashing Super. I'm not. But the thing that I was talking to Jay about is, what is Super doing that's really well? And I want you guys to answer that in the comment section. Like, Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball series, had a very, very rich and tight story. Dragon Ball Z had amazing fight sequences. Dragon Ball GT at least introduced some new concepts that were never really thought about, like, 17 and, the whole concept of Super 17 and creating a 17 in the afterlife, and like the Shadow Dragons, and like the whole, adding towards the whole Tuffle story. GT at least added that. What is Super adding? It's retelling the same thing as Battle of Gods and Resurrection F. The next arc is going to be good, but it's doing it with worse animation. It's doing it with stretched out, plots. And it's like, it's just clearly a complete downgrade, where at least those other 3 versions of Dragon Ball added something, especially the movies too.
Okay, so overall, Quinn, do you think it's disappointment? I'm guessing you're going to say yes to that.
I am going to say this. I would say it's definitely not living up to its hype, but I haven't given up hope on it.
I agree with you. I think they could save it still with this 3rd arc. So, to wrap up here, I'm going to have 2 more questions, then we're done. This time I'm going to start with Mike. What, in your opinion, is the best thing about Dragon Ball in 2015? Like, positively. Is it the movie? Is it the fact that your channel went from nothing to something? Like, I know that sounds like a selfish thing, but actually, let's eliminate that, because let's not talk about channels. Let's talk about just the community overall. Like, what do you think is the best thing about this year that's made you the happiest?
Just new Dragon Ball in general. I mean, everything new with Dragon Ball. I mean,
but you have blown up, so I mean, there is that.
Sure, but I mean, like, I don't really like. I'm more concerned with talking about the actual Dragon Ball franchise than myself. And the thing is, like,
that's a change.
When it comes to it, like, like it's like this year, so many things have like returned to us. Star Wars,
Rocky,
Dragon Ball,
Terminator.
Rocky, so many things have kind of been at least attempted to be revived, in the case of Terminator.
We even got a Super Mario Maker, which I thought was a game. That's a game that I thought should have come out 20 years ago, and they finally came out with it.
Yeah, seriously. And like, I just feel like the Dragon Ball franchise being reinvigorated the way it has been the biggest thing to come out of 2015. And it is funny that, like Quinn was saying before, when it comes to the actual series, I just wanted to make this point. I think it's kind of funny that if everything that is the most Dragon Ball-y about the series thus far, like the big fights, like the storyline, stuff like that, has been the stuff that we almost want the least. It's almost like if Super was basically just filler, and we had episodes like the Mr. Satan series, like the Mr. Satan fight and the training with Goku and Vegeta and stuff, the entire series, and there was like next to no like real fights, I think that people would be just as happy, if not more so, than what we're actually getting right now. And that's kind of funny when you think about it. It's almost like fans want the antithesis of what Dragon Ball kind of is. It's kind of a rejection of the overall general theme that they've tried to present us with in the thus far. But
I feel like sorry, I won't interrupt you too long. I was just wondering, like, I feel like the fights in Super have been very half-assed versions of the movies. Like, they don't hit the same heights at the movie, and that's not because they're retelling the same fight. It's because they just don't put the effort into the fighting animations.
I hope they fix that with the Universe 6. The Universe 6 will really tell us a lot about what they're going with this. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But yeah, like, I feel like not only the reinvigoration of Dragon Ball as a franchise, but the promise of more to come in the future is really the thing that's made 2015 that great when it comes to Dragon Ball in general. And of course, being able to talk about it to a larger amount of fans is good too.
Jay, you said that your favorite thing was kind of getting to know all of us, and I added to that. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I appreciate, meeting everyone on YouTube. I had a friend of mine from the States, Megan, come and hang out with me over here, and that was cool. And just meeting everyone on YouTube and making some new online friends, making me want to travel and go out and see the world. So just sentimental stuff like that. But as a Dragon Ball fan, yeah, the highlight for me was definitely, being able to interact with the community and talk to people like Mike said about Dragon Ball again. And for me, the absolute highlight in terms of being a Dragon Ball fan and not being a YouTuber was going to see Resurrection of F in cinemas. That's probably another reason I don't enjoy Super as much, is because not only the fights don't hit the same heights as the movies do, but in terms of animation quality and the action that you see in them, going to see a Dragon Ball movie in cinemas was absolutely amazing. Like that was awesome. Like,
yeah, I
nothing
agree.
can touch that for me.
Not to interrupt you, but basically, I feel like that's another reason why, in many ways, even though I do think that the series is kind of a thing that they need to do right now, I do feel like the theatrical experience of seeing a Dragon Ball film,
I wanted to see it in
every
4D,
year, and seeing one every single year would make it even bigger in some ways. So I feel like what Super is going to do with their execution and how it's actually distributed, especially in the United States, since they still haven't even freaking announced anything for it yet, is really going to be telling as to the fame of Dragon Ball to go in the future.
Wow. Well,
give us Kai first. Give us Kai for the Buak first, you fucking
a whole year, and we haven't even gotten the Buak of Kai.
Nearly 2 years since it started airing on TV. April 2014, it started airing on TV. Dragon Ball Z Kai, or Dragon Ball Kai the Buak. Give us the fucking English dub, you fucking cocksuckers at Toei.
So, Quinn, what do you think, man? What has been your most, other than meeting me, of course, and the feeling was very mutual, what has been your most happy time this year? Was it when you bought a car? Like, what from Dragon Ball has made you the happiest this year?
Wow, that's a very good question. I haven't even thought about that. I mean, if I had to think of probably the hype, it'd probably be meeting you guys, not to just, reiterate what Jay said, but honestly, like taking it from me, because I've been in this community a little bit longer, I mean, there really is no real change between 2014 and 15 except for just meeting newer friends. Like 2014 was about meeting Rhyme Style, Toasty, and Thundershot. Now this year's about meeting, Jay, Zeon, Megan, just more people. So
Clayton?
Really, it's just the bonds that we've created as like Dragon Ball YouTubers and, all of that stuff. Everything else is basically already what it was.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. So before we get out of here, this will be the last question. Quinn, you did a video about us being in the Dragon Ball Renaissance, and I'm going to start with you and then go to Mike and then Jay. Now that the year is over, are we, with all the new stuff coming out, and we haven't even hit the peak yet because Universe 6 is going to be next year, plus the dub is coming. We haven't even hit the Western peak yet, but do you think the Dragon Ball Renaissance is in full effect? Quinn?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, when I made that Renaissance video, I made that video before Super was announced, and some people were thinking I had inside information about Dragon Ball Super because they're like, QAAMAN, you would only have made this video if you knew Super was going to come out. Some people actually thought like I was like lying to them, saying that I didn't know it was going to happen. But me and BLACKENFIST legitimately like actually didn't know that Super was going to come out. So I'd say it definitely is. Huge video game, huge movie, new series. You can't top that.
Jay?
Yes?
Renaissance. Is it the Renaissance?
I believe that we are going through somewhat of a Dragon Ball Renaissance, and that QAAMAN is psychic. He has psychic abilities.
Well, you can kind of see it coming, like Mike said. But QAAMAN did put it on a new level, yes.
With the release of Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods in 2013, that was the start of it. But we could have never known, we never could have known that we were going to get Resurrection of F. We could have never known we were going to get Dragon Ball Super. But you felt like something was in the air when Xenoverse got announced because it was so different from anything in a video game we'd had before. And that was really the start of it for me. Battle of Gods, I guess you could say, was the real start of the Renaissance. But when Xenoverse got announced and I started seeing gameplay footage of that, I was really hyped. And then when they showed the first trailer for the new Dragon Ball, it was just titled like Dragon Ball Z movie 2015. They hadn't given it a title yet.
Yeah, the only thing we knew was the worst wish in history, which was not the name of the movie.
Yeah, that kind of made you think, well, okay, Dragon Ball Z's starting to come back. That's when it would first cross your mind that Dragon Ball Z is making a bit of a comeback. And then with Dragon Ball Super got announced, that pretty much all but confirmed it. So it's safe to say we're definitely in a renaissance, but Dragon Ball is not going to hit the heights that it hit in the 90s. That's just a fact.
Most likely not. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I mean, hell, Force Awakens is I mean, it's big. I don't know if Star Wars or if Dragon Ball will ever hit that level of fame like Force Awakens will. I wish it would, but
yeah. Well, Resurrection of F for me was a height that Super hasn't touched so far, and it won't touch. And unless the Universe 6 arc is something special, I still think Resurrection of F was the real height of 2015 in the Dragon Ball community.
I mean, I will say, I personally, I loved meeting everybody. I love meeting Lance, who I respect greatly, and seeing the movie with him, and Juan and Quinn, and all these people who I've hopefully in some ways helped them out, like they've helped me out in life and in Dragon Ball. Mike, is this the Dragon Ball Renaissance, man?
I like how you weren't happy to meet me, but yeah, sure, why not? I mean, I mean, it is, but I will have to say that there was one major criticism that could, stop all of Dragon Ball in its tracks, and this Renaissance could not be a Renaissance after all. I still feel like Resurrection of F should have been Resurrection of B, and Broly should have come back instead.
Come on, bro. The Broly jokes is like your thing now.
Hey, it is 2015. We got to get rid of that now, don't we? Anyway, the point of the matter is that I feel like it could be in a Renaissance, but I feel like they could still fuck it up, and Toei needs to, in 2016, learn from their mistakes and make it so that they don't. But if I'm listening to this in 2016, or people are listening to this in the future, you probably agree with me that they still happen. So, yeah, let's find out.
Yeah, we will find out. So anyways, that's going to do it for our year in review show. So much stuff. I mean, there's also other stuff like, Hyper Dragon Ball Z got an update. Dokkan Battle came out this year. Extreme Butoden is out. Just all kinds of stuff. The Dragon Ball Z card game came back last year. It's going to go into effect this year even further. So much stuff, and we all look forward to 2016. Of course, check out QAAMAN'S Land, LaughingStock Media, and Super Jayain on their respective YouTube channels if you have not. Any final thoughts, boys, before we get out of here?
Broly's in the robot from Universe 6.
Come on, bro.
Put that cookie down! Now!
Come on, what are you waiting for? Do it now.
My favorite
thing Which one of us is the real Harold? Real Harold, you'll never know.
The clones. The clones are coming to attack us.
We look forward to more songs next year, too. Anyways,
don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, Quinn, take us out of here, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this, Danny, just so you don't forget. I remember you also wanted to mention Clayton.
Oh, well, what can we possibly say about him?
But just to close us out, I just want to say I hope you guys had a wonderful new year. I'm going to do my own video, doing my own 2015 year review, doing a QAAMAN Talks. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts, so most importantly, over everything else.
Speak up.
Please.
Today,
please, hold on. Let me just push the gain so people can make sure they hear this. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.
Stick around, what did Luke? There's a lot more to come in the future.
And what did Luke say, Mike?
Ah!